Good evening and welcome to the June 2nd, 2022 meeting of the school committee. All members are present and I'm calling this meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. Let's see, we'll start with the consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions or concerns, comments about the consent agenda? Okay. All items are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the committee so requests, in which event the item will be considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Moved by Stacy.
Second by Catherine.
Moved by Stacy, seconded by Catherine. All in favor? Thank you. All right, communications. We're going to move on to our student representatives who are all here tonight. Hi, ladies.
Hello. Before we do this, could we do a moment of silence for this?
Yes, okay, sorry, I'm going to just take a moment. So we'd like to ask for a moment of silence for the mass shooting that happened just a week ago in Uvalde, Texas, as well as the several other that have happened in the meantime. Thank you. To be honest, I'm really tired of doing moments of silence about any of that, but we'll move on from now. Okay, sorry, girls. Do you have any reports for us tonight?
Yeah, we have a list of some things. So obviously the seniors are done and our senior final exams are open. And then track just placed second in states for they're in Division 4 by 0.2 points, so they were really close to almost winning it.
Awesome.
And then girls and boys lacrosse, baseball, softball, and then boys and girls tennis are also all going to states or playoffs, which is good. We've had our graduation rehearsals were yesterday and today, and then our in-school graduation is going to be tomorrow, and real graduation is Sunday at 10. Something between Student Advisory Council is we elected new regional reps for next year. So that's going to be Sarah Buckley and Aditya Gupta. And then I think Saki Kulkarni is an alternate. And then Haley Davis and Maeve Garvey are going to be the reps for the school committee next year. So they'll be here starting next year. Holliston Pops, which is like popular music concert, is coming up next Tuesday, June 7th. We had another successful NHS induction as well as another successful Art Saves Lives night. So that is it.
A clarifying question. Is it Tuesday night? We had on our calendar that the Pops concert was Friday night? No?
Tuesday night is the band Miller concert.
Miller concert is Tuesday night.
Oh, we might have the wrong date then.
I think it's the 10th.
7th? Oh, okay.
Oh, the
The
10th.
7th is Miller, right.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure we didn't have the wrong thing.
But that's it.
Anything else? That's it?
Yes.
You guys all set for graduation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Graduation parties happening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this is the last time we're going to be here, so.
Yes, I know.
No way.
Any You don't want to come back on the 16th? We have one more meeting.
I'm busy that night.
They're like, no? Oh, you're busy? Okay.
And prom too was good.
Prom was good.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
prom.
Yeah.
this was.
Well, I thank you, the three of you, for being our student reps this year.
Thanks for
Appreciate
Thank you for
your,
having us. Yeah.
your comments and your thoughtfulness and your perspective that you've offered to the school committee this year. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I wish you all the best
Thank you.
in whatever you do. And come back and see us whenever you want. You know where to find us.
We will.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else want to say anything? Stacy, you want to say something?
So first, congratulations, ladies.
Thank
I had so much fun at the senior car parade.
Oh, yeah, the
I
senior car
really,
parade.
it was it was a little warm, but
It was.
a
It was a
beautiful
little
day, and I really, because I know a bunch of you, I really, I'm so proud of all of you. So congratulations, and it really has been great to have you at the table with us, and I hope you learned some things along the way.
Definitely.
I don't
Thank
think
you.
it's as it was as hot as last year, though.
No, it was hot, but it wasn't
Yes.
that
Better than last year.
The last year was a little rough.
rough.
We recently had the 8th grade service day, so we had 8th graders at the senior center. They were actually in both Placentino and Miller, helping in the classrooms with reading stories, and I'm not sure what else was going on in there, because I was actually at the high school cleaning up the fields with some kiddos. So we did some cleanup up here, and we did lots of mulching and weeding on the Woodland Street campus. And then we had a lunch afterwards, and then I was trying to train the kiddos to pick up trash, and so if they wanted another popsicle, they were required to bring 10 pieces of trash to the trash barrel. So I hope they'll learn, because, like, notice the theme here, kiddos. Last week I attended the service learning night, and I love this program, and I love seeing what the kids choose for projects. And this year, there were so many really out-of-the-box thinking. There was one on fashion and how the fashion industry is just trying to make you think that you need to change your outfits all the time. And so, we're filling landfills with clothes, and, the kids were trying to focus on, like, we need to slow it down, and you should really be reusing and shopping at thrift stores. That was super cool. There was a student who used his talent with music for stress reduction. There was one with a student had reached out and worked with seniors and did the "How are you?" and really had conversations with them and sat and really had meaningful story time, with seniors who were alone. So that was really cool. There was I think there were 8 or 10 of them. It's on the website. I'll share. I left it in my other bag, but I'll share with you the QR code for the website to Mrs. Mills' service learning, because they were really, they're always really cool, but this year, some of them I was like, wow, it was really interesting. And I asked every single group the same questions, and everybody's, I said, would you recommend this class? Would you take it again if you could? Absolutely, this is a class you should take before you graduate high school. So they were all super excited. The Envisioning Future Holliston survey number 2 is live. It is on the town website. I will also share an email with all of you so you can go on. Please fill it out. We really need that data so that we can help make a recommendation at fall town meeting in October. And finally, I don't want to take this away from Catherine was going to talk about it, but Catherine and I are the 2 school committee people who are part of the data and dialogue discussion that is Holliston Youth and Family Services and Holliston Public Schools. And really, it's Holliston Community, because there are other community members. And what we're doing is looking at data on really mental health and social and emotional learning and diversity and equity. And so we had our second session yesterday, and
It's the one that's run by Jerry.
yep, and Jariel. So Jariel
Jackie is,
and
yeah.
Jackie
Okay.
Weiner are sort of co-chairing it, if you will. But there's people from sort of all sectors of the community. So yesterday really was a really dynamic morning of conversation about, we looked at mood check data, a parent survey, Metro West Youth and Families,
The
police
the police data,
Family survey,
the family survey, and there was one other. There was 5.
new check,
Youth risk behavior
new
survey?
check,
Yeah,
yes.
a lot of data.
A lot of data.
I can't think of it
Okay.
at the moment. So I really enjoyed that. So we are on that. We have one more session, June 16th.
And the next section is, the next session is action steps. So this past time, we all broke up into groups and everybody got one data set to look at and made observations, and the next session will be, so now
This
what?
is right in your bailiwick.
I love it, I
Catherine.
know. Data nerd.
Okay,
Yeah, so
great.
that's all.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any reports? Anything to report? Go ahead, Amanda.
So just another one, Jerry L has been busy because he also runs the Safe and Supportive Schools team. I'm representing the school committee on that team. There's also Mrs. Beatty from Rams. Nicole's on the committee, a lot of parents, students, teachers, other stakeholders. And we met last Thursday, and we're meeting again this following Thursday. And we went over the strategic plan and talked about which strategic initiatives that this team could help move forward, and things like that, as well as looking at other initiatives. So that's another helpful team for the town to ensure safe and supportive schools for all. That's taking place.
Great.
Well, I might jump in with, even though I'm not school committee, but I've been trying to schedule a wellness meeting for this year, just to have, we didn't get to do much with wellness the last couple of years with well, we were doing lots with wellness, but COVID wellness.
Right.
But, so I am working on scheduling at least a meeting before the end of the school year, that getting a small group together to at least kind of plan out what the work will look like next year and set some meeting dates, and then we can put out, to figure out who should be on that committee for next year as well.
Kevin, do you have something else?
I was just gonna add that, well, the Miller Band is coming up on the 7th, and the 5th grade, as it's been called in my house, the opening house is on the 9th. This week is Spirit Week at Placentino. Tomorrow's Adjective Day, which is my absolute favorite. So there's a large pile of all things sparkly in my living room right now. And I just wanted to say thank you to the PTO for bringing back the book fair. We now have a large stack of books on my coffee table with really fancy bookmarks. And it's just so fun to see everybody back in their groove, kids asking for the Lego book and parents saying, no, it has to be a real book. And, it's just, everybody's fighting again. It's great. It's like, we're all back. So it was really fun to be back in the building and see it all happening again.
I don't know the numbers, but last night I think they did really well in terms of sales, so that was good.
We were enthusiastic supporters.
Yes, we were.
Yeah.
Catherine and I were in line together.
But it was so much fun. It was just so much fun to be in the space and feel like this was like a thing we did before. And yeah, it was good.
Any piece back to normalcy is nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. All right, we'll move back on to, does central administrators have any other comments for this?
No,
one?
I think you covered it.
Okay. Before we move on, I don't have anybody from the public. I just wanted to invite Mr. Bernstein up to say anything that he wanted to say to his group. If you wanted to, you don't have to if you don't want to. I'm sorry, I should have asked you before when they were talking, and then it dawned on me that I didn't do that, so I apologize.
No, I just, every year we have the opportunity to have student advisory council representatives on school committee.
Yeah.
And this year we've had 3 of the finest. They just did a fantastic job. We meet we meet every couple of weeks, and we meet before school committee meetings. The whole committee gets together, the whole council gets together to discuss what's going on in the school and what should be shared, so it's participation by everybody. And as they mentioned, our new regional reps, they were actually elected state by the entire school. And then, and the way the process works is our reps as juniors become the school committee representative senior year because they've already been elected as representatives. So we've been, as much as we will miss the 3 ladies today, this year, we've got 2 great young ladies coming on to the school committee next year.
Great. I look forward to it.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for advising this fantastic team.
You bet.
We really appreciate having them here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I don't have anybody here from the public. All right, so I guess we'll move on to presentations at this point. Dr. Kuska?
Thank you. I'm going to ask our 4 principals to change seats with our
Thank you.
advisory group. Thank you so much for coming tonight. And actually, if you can pass that along, they'll be using that later on in the presentation.
Fancy.
Have to shoot it yours, though.
Yes, to the computer.
Yeah.
If not, I'll do it manually.
She's driving the cars.
Are we starting in a predictable order, or?
Yes.
So yes,
I think they're starting at Central.
we're gonna start
Okay.
with central updates, and then we're gonna lead into Placentino, to Miller, to Rams, to high school. And next year, we'll do it the opposite way. We try to change it up once in a while.
Okay,
All right, so I just,
if you remember to do that.
I think you may have seen this picture before. This was one of my favorite advisory meetings this year with our pre-K2 population. I should have been taping it for Kids Say the Darndest Things. It was quite amusing. I had an advisory meeting last week at Miller with our grade 3 to 5 population. And today I had an advisory meeting with our 6-8 population. And I told David this already because we were having our meeting too, but I walked in and we had an L-shaped room, and they've met me before. This is our third time. And I sat down, I said, "Hey, how's everything going?" I was like, "Oh no, what do I do now?" But once we got going, I had some great conversations with them. I started asking about things happening outside of school, and then after a little bit, the hands were going up. We only had a half an hour. I had to cut them off. I'm like, "Okay, I take one more." They gave me a great list of ideas and things that I think David could easily try to manage some of them. They're kind of simple ideas that wouldn't cost us any money, so I'm going to type those up and send them along. But I was really excited with some of the conversations we had, and they were very enthusiastic. So it ended with them wanting to stay longer, and I'm like, "No, you got to go back to class." But I think I have Placentino coming up soon, and I think I have one more at the high school as well. So that has been part of one of my goals, is to try to get that student voice in at the district level, pre-K to 12. This is our current strategic plan, or our previous, because we're moving into a new one. The current mission that was on our website was that we are committed to providing the resources and opportunities that will enable each student to develop and maximize individual potential in a positive and collaborative environment that encourages and affirms academic achievement and personal excellence. I'm not going to read the vision. You have it in front of you. This is our old vision. And on the next page is our old, what we believe, our beliefs from our previous strategic plan. You'll see at the end of our 11 slides at the district, we have our new vision and mission, and it's all on one slide. So we're excited about how we condensed it to make it, I think, picture where we are moving forward over the next 5 years. You heard me this year talk about equity, and everything we've been doing is really emboldened, and equity is embedded in everything we're doing moving forward, continuing into our strategic plan for the next 5 years. These were our 5 arches of our bridge this past year, which was aligned to the previous strategic plan: innovative teaching and learning opportunities, equitable, safe, and supportive schools, teaching all students, and communication. I put up on the right hand, you'll see that that was our first HPS district newsletter that had a lot of information. It was a little bit lengthy, but that was the first, even though I've been communicating weekly and our principal's been communicating weekly, that was the first one where central office put together a lot of information to update us, not only about what's been happening with COVID and schools and safety, but also where we're moving with curriculum and rigor and things in the future. Joni?
This is a very brief overview of some of the hard work and important work I've been working on with the Curriculum Council this year, and for innovation, teaching, and learning opportunities. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, it's really taking a picture of the Massachusetts state standards. There are curriculum standards for every subject, and we really dove deep into those. Teachers struggled with those on their own, trying to figure out where's the best time to teach that. And we are translating those standards into something like you see on the right-hand side. That is our first step in making a district transparent communication to families and communities members when each standard is being taught, what month. And you can expect that to come out later this summer. So there'll be full transparency with that. I also talked to Dr. Kuska after talking to some parents. I really saw the need to do education next year for parents about standards and what we're responsible to teach. The state is dictating this. We're a public school. We're responsible, since we receive public funding, what the standards are, and to dive deep into those. So I'll have some informational nights for that next year. If you look in the bottom right-hand corner, it's really looking at, we're really starting that vertical and horizontal alignment and having rich conversations around that, the need for it, and really kind of getting our minds wrapped around it to produce what's in the middle. So we're really looking at that vertical articulation, horizontal articulation, which is then going to go into the district curriculum maps. There will be a template for that. So there's a shared vision and commonality. We'll have the same common language and understanding. And in those curriculum maps, well, the units of study, when it's being taught, there'll be an internal component and an external component, and that's still being worked on. Really excited to have the 3 new positions join the work next year and continue to evolve this. So it's just a short, very quick synopsis of what's been going on.
Yes, and we're hoping to finalize the hiring of the 3 pre-K to 12 plus curriculum positions. I'm hoping that maybe they can come to the next meeting and you could meet that team if they're able to come for the 16th. Keith?
I have teaching all students. Kelly Camp was going to do this, but, short timers. The focus areas, Holliston Public Schools will deliver challenging, comprehensive, standards-based instruction that maximizes individual potential so all students can demonstrate academic, social, and emotional growth through the use of a multi-tiered system of supports to accommodate differences in learning styles, needs, interests, and levels of readiness. If you start with the upper left, we always had talked about in the past about equality and equity, how students get what they need when it's equitable. We're going to be using hopefully some data that we get, some information we get, some recommendations we get from our equity audit to turn that equity into justice, to be able to turn things into happens more normally or just part of our regular routine as opposed to something we have to consciously do. So again, Susan and I actually met with one of our potential vendors today to get that process going. So we're moving forward with that. Moving down from there, Renaissance Star Math reading benchmarks are given 3 times a year in grades K through 10. It's going to help us assess where students need help regarding different instruction, and using the system of multi-tiered system of support will tell us when we need to move kids from a true classroom-based tier 1 up through tier 2 and 3. Over on the far right, at the top, utilizing our previous goals for our 3-year roadmap, we're going to continue going down that path. And the central leadership team and building leaders are finalizing a full-year PD schedule. It looks great so far, and it's going to continue to do so, and it's really been put together in a very thoughtful, mindful way. We can tell you up front that there's not enough time, but, we'll fit the best we can. The other challenge with that is we do now have 12 hours of time for paraprofessionals this year, which is something that we had a while ago. It's been here, been back, and we're going to go at it again. We certainly have plenty of topics and activities for them to go through. And again, it's about, is there enough time to do it all? But we will try to do that, So
I do want to clarify, so we put some of the work that's happened up on these slides, but I gave you the full document, which the last column in the updated plan from the beginning of the year, I put it all in red, so some of this is on here, but the rest of it isn't that much longer document, which has a lot of detail in it.
The next 2 slides are Jerry L's. In order to do him justice, I'm just going to read some notes he has down here. In that top middle, he has the picture of the heart and mind. In order for equitable, safe, and supportive schools to become a reality, this work is about nurturing and supporting the heart, feelings, emotions, and creating spaces of belonging and inclusivity, while also using strong research, curriculum, and data work for the analytical pieces of this work just as well. And if you move on to the top right-hand picture, Mr. Boudet talked a little bit about it, but Jerry is going to be working on starting to develop a shared language of MTSS and how all of this works under what we now call Arch 2. Must be part of our Holliston MTSS structure. A fully thriving MTSS structure is the actualization of what educational equity should be. If you look in that middle bottom, the castle picture, currently have an SEL review team that has been reviewing our current SEL resources and utilizing Castle's Guide to Social Emotional SEL programs and coordination. combined with a combination of educators and leaders, as we sort our way through hundreds of resources out there, we must ensure highly researched materials. By the end of June, we'll be narrowing resources to 1 to 2 and then piloting those 2 resources within our districts so that we may take a more thorough look at the resource before we enter the work. That bottom right-hand picture, the ADL, working with ADL in response to the unfortunate hate speech this year, working on our crisis and incident response procedures, processes and procedures, and ensuring we build this work into our structures versus being reactionary. And that top left-hand picture, PBIS. As part of our MTSS approach through DESE, we are receiving support for this work for 2 more years as we aim to have a strong PBIS Tier 1 approach with Fidelity that supports the foundation for SEL resources and developing supports for all students benefiting from a strong Tier 1 approach. And this work includes PD and alignment work for our school leaders and their teams, as the picture is an example of these teams attending a Northeast PBIS Leadership Conference where SEL and mental health and equity were front and center. And then he also wanted to include student voice, ensuring our trajectory is informed by student voice, such as the 2 seniors that are captured there in the bottom left-hand side. Also, as well as Dr. Kuska talked about her student advisory groups. On the next slide, if you look at the top left-hand corner, EDC data dialogues and triangulation. It's exactly what Stacy and Catherine were talking about, so I'm going to let you guys take that. But it's really looking on those key data metrics that the ladies were referring to. And then on the top right-hand side, after doing a year-long series on becoming culturally responsive educators, we wanted to share some of the work that our educators have wrestled with and will continue to develop, but equally important is for Holliston community to clearly understand what would mean to ensure culturally responsive schools and teaching practices, essentially creating classrooms where belonging is foundational. Look at the bottom left, Culture and Climate Survey. Second round of Culture and Climate Survey at Rams in June so that we can compare growth next year, and we'll be doing it 2 times a year, fall and the spring. The first round occurred December 2021. Next round will occur this June at Rams. And then the bottom right-hand picture, bullying, Massachusetts Aggression Reduction Center, or MARC, at Bridgewater State University, trained all SSP members, and professional development for staff around best practices and current research focused on aligning prevention practices through strategic planning. For the parent portion, if you guys remember, he had a developing community education opportunities around social and emotional well-being of our students as we collaboratively work together to offer opportunities for families to not only understand this work, but to provide tools for our families to best support the social and emotional well-being of their children and adolescents. And that is just capturing a small part of the work Jeriel's been working on.
If we haven't already, can we connect Jariel with Dennis Giambetti with Senator Spilka's office? Because pre-COVID, we were doing a lot of work with her office as she was doing a lot of work for Metro West and for her districts. So we just think this is really, I think, we've sort of set the bar in some areas. So I really think we should connect Jariel to her district person, who I think is still Dennis Giambetti.
Yeah.
It is right now. They did hire a new director. I just can't remember what her name is.
Giambetti or Jay?
Giambetti.
Yeah, I have the email addresses we can get. Just in that vein, I had received tonight an email confirming that we did in fact receive a grant that Jeriel wrote. I forget the amount. I didn't even have time to, I had to go in and sign to approve the grant, but Jeriel had done that work a few weeks back. Do you remember how much it was for? So I'll get an update because I literally just got hot off the press, so I'll get you an update.
Tens of thousands of dollars, but I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
Great.
And for what?
For all the SEL and equity work
Correct.
that he's working on.
Right.
So I'll get you because I didn't have time to go into it, I don't remember the details now, but it's just showing the emphasis we're putting here. And you're going to hear as we go into the principals' reports that all of the work they're doing, I mean, this trickles down into each building, and they have different information to add on to that.
And I wanted to thank Stacy and Catherine for attending the EDC conversations. I think it's really important because there's a lot of different players involved in that conversation. Counselors, school committee, outside agencies, town members, selectmen. I mean, I thought it's very powerful, so thank you for also doing the work.
Yeah, I thought yesterday was, the first session was very elementary, I think, for some of us who have been sitting at the table and talking about this. But it was important to do, especially for people on the town side who hadn't heard about it. But yes, yesterday was in particularly powerful because we were split up into different groups with different people. And it was, different areas of town and different agencies. And it was very powerful to hear the observations from the different data sources, for sure.
And he does plan on reporting out at future school committee meetings and sharing the results in a future district newsletter edition, the work that's being done there, so.
It takes a village, as you always hear me say.
And in that EDC data dialogue, it says action steps in response to mood check. Like, what were some of the action steps?
No, we didn't get there yet. That's next week.
Okay.
Or next time, yeah.
Correct.
So we might be able to give you a little synopsis next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on, Keith.
The next area is communication. We will expand the computer science opportunities and digital literacy skill integration in all curricula. That's the top left box, talking about the CSE offerings at the high school. The communications from our tech integration specialist, who's the program coordinator for it as well, Ms. Kuhn, and redesign of the makerspace right over behind you, not behind you, kind of off to the side from you. We will also utilize digital platforms to ensure consistent, effective communication between and among administration, schools, staff, parents, and the community to address student achievement and identify opportunities for improvement. That's in the top right box, which is talking about the tools, about using Bright Arrow, and we did this more pilot with the newsletter, anonymous alerting solutions for school officials. Down on the bottom left, the redesigned website. We're going to provide additional training so more and more people can publish up there. The district added a district webmaster responsibilities. Haven't quite worked that one out yet necessarily. But, 4 staff members attended a virtual conference. And then again, with the information about increased communication, the data dashboards, internal stakeholder committee has been created, and a recommendation and implementation plan is expected for the 23-24 school year.
So while we have not completed all the goals that we set forth, there was a lot rigorous amount of goals on our previous plan. I do feel like we are moving in the right direction, and some of that work, even if it hasn't been finalized, it's definitely in motion as we move forward into next year.
And with technology, I was going to say, it's also just, remember, it's very dynamic. What we view as today's solution that we're going to get to next year is no longer the best solution. So while we view ourselves in one path, and you want to treat it like a straight line, it isn't.
No, I agree. I just think I just want to be mindful that we did set a lot of goals, but we have accomplished a lot. And I hope people, it's so easy to go towards the negative, but my God, you have done a lot, and we have come through almost on the other side. So I just don't want to, I think sometimes we tend to say, oh, we had a lot of goals, but we're still working. Yeah, but we did a great job.
I think the biggest message for me, too, is that even though this was year 2 of COVID, and we thought we would be in a better place with COVID, we didn't let that set us back and lose momentum. We kept moving forward. So even though we may not have hit every mark we wanted, that we are on that trajectory, and it's really set us up perfectly for the strategic initiatives that we're working on for the next 5 years.
I just want to, we need to remember that, and not look at what we didn't accomplish, but what we have accomplished.
And if you can accomplish all your goals in 1 year, they're probably not enough.
Right.
Because it's hard to do all of this work.
Could we follow up on the computer science, the expanded computer science endorsement offerings, in terms of, I think it was maybe 2 or 2.5 years ago that we first brought that program. So we probably this year have some kids that are graduating. Can we
Yes.
get an idea of how many kids in fact have graduated this year?
Yes,
And how many are enrolled in the program? And then
yes,
how to build it?
I know Dan told me the other day, but I don't want to misquote, so I'll get that number
I
from
think he presented that when he was here
Was
a
it
couple weeks
4?
ago.
I think it was 4.
I thought
You're
4
right.
was
I
what
think
I
it's
In my
4.
presentation, if you just pull
We'll get to
There
it.
you go. Okay.
All right, so I wanted to now present our 2022-2027 mission, core values, and vision that you saw us present in our strategic plan a few weeks back. Much shorter, but we feel it's even more meaningful as we move forward. To collaboratively create a safe, inclusive environment that empowers all learners through innovative teaching and learning to be lifelong, active global citizens. I'll let you look at the core values. I don't want to read all of those, but we condensed those, but we really focused on, we took the old ones and we looked at, we put together a lot of new ones, and we did condense it because we want this to be meaningful and not just a laundry list. But my personal favorite is our vision: embark on your journey, personal, local, global. It's short, it's sweet, it's to the point, but it says volumes in my opinion. So we're excited to embark on the journey for the next 5 years. And I'm going to move on and pass it along to Dr. Slaney.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I think that I speak for all 4 principals and echo our central office when we say that I think we started this year really excited that it was back to normal. And very quickly, we learned it wasn't. So when we share our growth this evening and the progress we made, I think it's really important to keep that in mind as well. And when we share our growth, we're really celebrating our teachers, our educators in our schools, and our students, because they're the reason why. So though we're sitting here sharing this information, this is their hard work, their perseverance through a really challenging year. You're going to be hearing from us, and I think we could say what they said, because I feel that our goals, they are very much connected, which is a tribute to the strength of our system, pre-K to 12 plus. So for me, you're going to be hearing from the district, you heard that bigger picture, and then I'm going to be presenting those goals and what it looks like through the lens at Placentino. Do I have this?
I think so.
Oh, look at that. Wrong way, though. There we go. So for Placentino, when we looked at innovative learning opportunities, we really looked at the lens of equity, inclusion, and what it looks like at a pre-K to 2 plus level. I want to recognize Jenny Mann, who is our humanities curriculum person. She just did this incredible job working with all of our teachers to bring windows, mirrors, and sliding doors of literature into our classrooms. You can see in the bottom left, we brought in the idea of celebrations of light, which directly connects to our social studies standards around holidays. And we had children kind of answering that essential question of how they're related, how they're different, how what I celebrate is similar to what you celebrate, but how is it different, giving glimpses into each other's cultures and really having the students be driving that conversation. We had school-wide book reads, which was really powerful too, where we had different members of our school read a book on, and we recorded it, and it's super fun. You feel like a rock star when you, I saw you read the book today, and that was great. And we did one a month, all on the themes of making sure that students see themselves, but they're also seeing into other cultures. We dove into the work with our teachers around developing their understanding of their own self-awareness, their own bias, but also learning about that developmental span of when our students do. Knowing that students as young as 2 have starting to develop bias. And how do we, as the adults, be able to listen into conversations, and then when we're hearing it, being able to pause it and name it for students, not in a way that shames them, but in a way that really brings light to what's happening. And sometimes we found ourselves responding to situations, and that was okay because that's where we were. Moving forward, we have really reflected on some of those themes that we're seeing and hearing in our classroom, in the playground, on the bus, mostly when there isn't that attentive ear that those things are happening, and how we can have lessons that go across our school, and we're tying it into our social emotional curriculum, which currently is Open Circle, and Jeriel and the social emotional team are looking at different curriculums that we can be looking at pre-K to 12. But that way they're being able to have some of those conversations to be able to help unpack their learning and to do some unlearning for students as well, because it happens starting at our level. The next goal is around equitable, safe, and supportive schools, and I'm really just so proud of our staff and our students, especially Cheryl Lassie, who's our assistant principal, and Max Perkins, who is our adjustment counselor. They have really spearheaded and led a PBIS team with the support of Jeriel. We have taken care and really dove into what does it mean? What does PBIS mean? So PBIS means much more than care. It's around school-wide supports. It's about identifying common language, which we did this year. If you ask any student at Placentino what is an unexpected behavior in the cafeteria versus what is an expected behavior, they know that language. You can see the pictures on either side of our students walking down the hallway. Those are expected behaviors. We use that common language. When Mr. Jordan's 8th graders came over, I said, so remember, all of our students in Placentino know what expected behaviors are. And they kind of looked at me like, And I said, you are the role models for that. And then I said, ask our kids about it. And they did, and they shared what expected behaviors are. We have developed a school-wide PBIS matrix. You can't really see it, but it's all the different areas of our school and what does it look like when you have expected behaviors there. Assessment is really important, and part of this, again, with Cheryl and Max really taking the lead, we partnered with the UConn and the Department of Ed, and they came in and they did an assessment, a tiered assessment. Because if you don't know where you are, you can't really grow. So in the beginning of it, we found that only 27% of our staff were implementing Tier 1 for PBIS. This was in, I believe, January. And what they did was they came in and they asked students questions. They asked staff questions. They asked students, when's the last time you got a care card? Have you got a care card? And really unpacking. So it's not just us saying what we're doing. It's really asking our stakeholders if they're experiencing it. And then in April, we did it again, and we moved from 27% to 60% implementation, which our goal was 70, so we're not there yet. That being said, we looked at the data of what we need to do, and we're developing goals to build that to get to 100% for next year. Don't you love these kids? So teaching all students. Our focus this year, talking about our growth, we started out calling it Reader's Workshop. We did a lot of learning ourselves, and we've focused and shifted to structured literacy. When we think about structured literacy, we want to think about where our learners are, and especially at Placentino, when they're pre-readers at preschool, kindergarten, moving into first grade, we noticed our students had a weakness in phonemic awareness. So the students in the middle who look like they have their hands, those are called their choppers. I have this awesome video of it where there's Hegarty, which is the phonemic awareness curriculum that we brought in. We implemented it in every single classroom, pre-K to 2. And the results of it are absolutely amazing. We're seeing our data in our DIBBLES, which is a reading assessment that breaks down students' awareness of phonemes, phoneme segmentation. Those underpinnings of spelling, of encoding and decoding, skyrocketing. I think the best story is one of the assessment tasks is phonemic awareness, and this little one said, I know how to do that, I just have to pull out my choppers, and they chopped up the word while they're doing the assessment. So this is common language, common practice across our school, and we're really seeing it pay off in dividends in our students' reading abilities. In addition, we have done a lot of in-moment coaching. Again, Jenny Mann, who's our humanities literacy specialist, she's been working in classroom, having coaching cycles with teachers, sometimes in small groups, sometimes one-on-one, being able to work with students and model for that. Our special educators have now all our moderate and some of our severe special educators, all of them have at least gone through the beginning stages of Orton-Gillingham training, which is a multisensory specialized instruction, which research has shown has really proven to support our students who have underdeveloped skills or disabilities in the area of phonics, and sometimes have been identified as dyslexic. So next year, our goal is to move more of our educators, our special educators, into practicums, because there's levels for Orton-Gillingham, and I'm really proud to say that all of our special educators have at least gone through that first level. And last is communication. I think communication for us is pretty easy at our level, because you might even actually be able to ask your child what they did and they might actually tell you. Compared to when I ask my middle schooler and she just rolls her eyes at me. But at Placentino, we try to send weekly newsletters from the office level, but our teachers all communicate at least weekly. Seesaw, really proud of our Seesaw usage. We saw a substantial increase recently, nearly 900 connected parents for Seesaw. So that means they are seeing pictures of what's happening in the classroom. They're able to communicate with the teachers. Our kids are able to really show their work as digital learning portfolios. And then I get the pleasure of posting on Instagram and Twitter all our amazing pictures. So check out for Friday for Adjective Day. And for our seniors walking through, we have two seniors. We're getting ready for, we have two seniors who have been employed by us to help at dismissal. And I think they're going to be the rock stars going through. They're expecting a lot, so I'm working on their signage on Friday, so we'll be sure to post about that too. So we're really proud of the growth and the work that we've done at Placentino.
Actually, Dr. Clayman, I remember a couple weeks ago, when we were in French learning classroom and they were practicing, I started trying to talk with students, and I realized I was interrupting their communication on Seesaw, so I got back.
They record. They were recording in one French classroom. We're realizing that, especially maybe in French, they're not seeing what their students, some of that vocabulary and the work that they're doing. So in first grade, they're reading a book a week, and then the families will be able to see it and kind of see their growth throughout too.
Thank you.
Questions, go ahead.
Was kind of a statement of, my daughter came home one day and we were in the car and she said, do you want to play a game with me? And I said, yeah, what are we going to play? She's like, okay, it's called Haggerty. I'll explain it to you. So it's having wonderful results, but it's also really fun.
They love it.
They really do love it. My question was, how many levels are there in the OG curriculum, and how many people are getting trained in that?
So I'd have to get back to you on how many levels. There's master levels, which we're not going to get to that piece. But our goal is there's an introductory, which is a 2-week class where they get the overview of the multisensory approach. And that we found has just changed instruction dramatically. And we currently this year had we had our literacy specialist and 2 moderate special educators, they're either currently completing or already completed their first year practicum, which will give them certification, which you don't need. It's an approach, and that's what I really want to emphasize, that when we talk about specialized instruction, it's really more important to talk about not a program, but an approach, and that multisensory approach is what research has told us really supports our students. And then at Placentino, I believe I have 4 more special educators who will be going through their practicum next year.
Great.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Thank you.
Ready?
Mr. Kine?
Oh,
Down.
There's
I
my
did
cute
it.
ones again.
There we go. The Miller School. I'd like to start off, Stacy, thank you for acknowledging, it has been, we have done a lot during this COVID year. We started off in rows, 3 feet apart, masks, no grouping. And so to see how far we've come since the beginning of the year is extraordinary. And I appreciate, Stacy said it, I know you all acknowledge it, but we do appreciate that because it's been a long year. So innovative learning opportunities. I think Jamie talked about the seesaw and the flip grid. These are awesome ways that students get to record themselves and report out to their teachers. I had several teachers in French immersion make it one of their goals they were seeing that French fluency was not as good as it had been. So they were having the students at home do a seesaw for their teacher as an assignment to practice, and it became a game, and the students really engaged in that opportunity, and they saw a dramatic increase in the French fluency. Our Spanish teachers do it also. They have the kids working on it individually in the hallway sometimes, in small groups, just working on that language. They can see themselves speaking in another language. When you get access to this, I've put a lot of little snippets in there that you can see. They are a lot of fun. The bottom left, our innovation lab is phenomenal. It's got green screen technology. Our 4th grade French students actually translated fairy tales into French and then acted them out in French in front of the green screen. In the bottom, Frax Math was a tool that our 5th grade teachers used this year, interactive tool that engaged the students in learning how to use fractions. In our top right, Active Inspire, this was a tool that Allie Curley taught to our 5th grade teachers, and then at one of the PD days, and then our foreign language teachers at another. What it does is it makes your Dell laptop an interactive screen so that it can show up, they can annotate on it so that it will show up on the projector. But what they can also do is video it so that the students can watch it at another time. But it was a very useful tool for the teachers in the student learning that was going on. And I've talked about for years the Genius Hour that Allie Curley does. She will go into classrooms, or they will come down to her, and students will research topics that they want to learn about, and then they'll video it. I also have to talk about the Innovation Lab and the engineering course that Allie Curley and Michelle Hastings do. So in 5th grade, it's one of the specials, and so what they do is they alternate weeks, and so they'll learn some of those skills, the scientific model in, how do you create something, how do you build something with a problem. They'll learn the technology piece in the Innovation Lab, and then they'll create a project. The second part of the year, they've created projects. They're actually presenting those this week in class, and they will also have them out for our 5th grade showcase evening next Thursday night. So just a lot of interactive things. And then the Gen Z media, These are podcasts that our teachers started to use last year during snack time, during indoor lunchtime, where kids are listening to stories. And they actually love these stories. They get into them. They can go home. It's a website that they can actually listen to stories at home as well. But a lot going on, even with COVID. So we're really excited. Yes?
Can I just jump into it? And I just want to remind Dr. Slaney and Mr. Keim that next week we actually have Superintendent Jett and the assistant superintendent from Milton Public Schools are going to come to visit some of our French immersion programs, pre-K to 5. And then Joni and I are going to go up to Milton next week because we want to see if we can partner together with them and other things that we can learn from one another. So hopefully you'll have a schedule for us for that. Just figured I'd remind you while we're thinking about it.
Write it down.
Ding, 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 ding. Equitable and safe schools. So our teachers meet weekly as PLC teams. So every other week will be math, and then every other week will be ELA. And during those meetings, they are taking a look at the curriculum and the resources that we're using to examine them, to make sure that we've got an equitable lens. We've had different groups of teachers come up with different kind of digital bookshelves to celebrate diversity. International Day of Women and Girls in STEM, Mary Eckwell put together. She also put something together on Earth Hour and Earth Day. We've got, Read Across America, Linda Canal put together, and American Asian Pacific Heritage Month, Sarah Nam put together. And then if you look at the books on the right, those are books that Dr. Khalees Warnham recommended for our students, and Linda was able to get those and put them in our libraries through some of the PD we've done. Stacy, you and I talked about Shine. We are rolling it out. I am going to share our new phrase is going to be RISE. So, and it stands for resilience, integrity, self-awareness, and empathy. And this is something that we had a group of teachers meeting all year. We took a look at Shine, and, we felt like we graduated from Shine. And we really wanted to dive a little bit deeper. We are still working on the matrix and what that looks like in the halls and in the different parts of the buildings. We're collecting feedback from students and what they think. We're having the students design a logo for the new RISE. We're getting teacher feedback, and they are creating a parent feedback form that they want to send out to parents to get their opinions on the RISE. I've got Padlet and PBIS staff survey. We talked about the digital dialogue or the data dialogue that Jeriel was having us go to. Middle school, high school have always delved into surveys and things like that. We, with the help of Jeriel, we created a PBIS staff survey to take a look at the culture in the building. We are going to dive into that. Jeriel said he would help us and look at how we can start fresh next year and take that data. And I'm really excited about what we're doing with this data dialogue, because I think it will help us bring this forward. The same thing with the Padlet. We did a more informal type survey with the staff. So we'll take both of those surveys and see how we can start, and not just for staff, but for students as well. Teaching all students. If you come into our building every morning, our innovation lab is alive. We have some students who don't like coming to school on a daily basis. And so how they start their day is they start in the innovation lab. They check into their homeroom, they go down for about 20, 25 minutes, and it's not necessarily technology. It's different things that Mrs. Curley has gotten in her room that are interactive, that are engaging, that get the kids ready to go for the day. Because we don't all start ready to get on our Chromebook or get into, some sort of activity that they're doing in the classroom. Different things you can see around. We've got tiered reading instruction going on. We've got different math, small group math lessons going on. They're using fraction bars in the bottom left to create things. And if you get a chance, I don't even know, it's 30 seconds, but the long division steps, it's a whole class doing a song, standing up, doing movements, a fourth grade class in learning the long division steps. So, there are different ways. Dr. Slaney talked about Haggerty and how the students are doing the movements with that. They get into it. We're actually going to move that up to third grade as well, because we feel like, at least to start the beginning of the year, it is something every student can do, and it's only, 5 minutes tops, but it gets them into the phonics and the phonemic awareness that we feel like they're lacking in grade 3 as well. Communication. At my school council this year, I asked them, what are we lacking in our communication? And the parents were honest. They said, hey, we love that you're giving us the dates. We love that you're telling us what's going on in the school. And so for the last 2 months, maybe 3 months, we've had a section in there is Miller's story. So we email out to teachers and we say, what are you doing in your classroom? And so teachers will fill out a Google form and tell us some of the things they're doing in their classroom. So this is separate from what teachers may email out on a weekly basis or every other week basis. This is teachers sharing so that we can share out the positive things going on. I got to be honest, it is Erica who posts up on Instagram and Facebook or Twitter. Those are, what's that?
Secret's out.
That's it. It's her. She does it. And I thank her for doing that on a regular basis. What was really special was end of April, having second grade into third grade parents back into the building. Third grade showcase, fourth grade showcase. Those fourth grade, some of those third and fourth grade parents had never been in our buildings. And they were just, in awe. And the kids just wanted to show them everywhere because they had never been in the building. And parents were so appreciative to get in the building. We were also able to put out the lost and found, and we got some things taken as they went home. But little plug, parents, get your lost and found. We got a lot at school.
There's a lot of things that are lost, not so much found.
So that's the Miller School.
And with all of your permission, I was going to put the link to this presentation out tomorrow in my end of the week update so parents could watch the videos as well.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
Long division song brings me back to Schoolhouse Rock, third grade.
Love it.
We would have to lie on a towel and listen to Schoolhouse Rock.
All right, those of us know this. It shows our age.
Right.
I think the 4 of us are doing it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank
See
you.
you graduation.
See you graduation.
8:45 tomorrow.
Yep. Have your bells on. All right.
Mr. Jordan is next.
Well, good evening, everyone. This marks another June that we've arrived at. I think this being the first school committee meeting in June that we would have, I just want to acknowledge Pride Month. I think I have been very excited as I've gone around to each of the schools and the community as a whole in our recognition of that and the support that exists within this community. And I hope that you've heard in each of our presentations and in mine that us as a community, us as a school district are very in support of efforts in that area. I want to kind of kick off with little bit, this being kind of our first meeting in June, and this being by June 2022, well, I can say I beat that. I said by May 31st at 11:59 and 59 seconds, I can confirm that 90% of educators with student learning goals and professional practice goals align to expanded authentic opportunities to learn in a personalized, digitally rich, technology-infused learning environment. So I was up for that, as I imagine these other three were as well. So the equitable, safe, and supportive schools. I like to think about this, and as I go through several of these slides, through kind of a program evaluation lens. And I want to identify the problem first and why we identified that as a problem, and then look at what activities we've done over the course of the year, and then where our prospective data will end in the year and what that progress has been. That will help us and help inform you kind of like what actions or things to pursue next. This was kind of aiming at equity, aiming at a lot of our SEL skills in these areas. We alluded to in the beginning, or spoke to a little bit about the data group that met as a town. I can speak to, as far as what we've looked at the middle school at the very beginning of the year, identified these kind of areas of concern that drove the creation of this goal and identifying this as a problem. As you can see, there are increased levels of stress have been identified during our culture and climate survey that Ms. Menard indicated that Jerry had put together that we gave in December. This does align to the Metro West Adolescent Survey data that we did receive back, that there are upward trends in bullying and cyberbullying, upward trends in reports of anxiety and depressive symptoms. And this also, similarly, this data triangulates and aligns to the mood check data that we're receiving at the same time, which is saying that there are clinically significant reports of anxiety and depressive symptoms. I wouldn't say I don't think fortunately is the wrong word probably for it, but this is similar across the Metro West. We are not unique to that, and we shouldn't also be surprised by that based off of, as Dr. Slaney had indicated, the last couple years that we've managed, not only as a community, but as a nation and as a globe. So this just kind of, more specifically, is just a snapshot of the Metro West Adolescent Health Survey data, which you can see kind of the 2006 to 2021. And if you just focus on the 2021 column and even compare it to the 2018 and below, and you'll have access to these slides, you can see that something has happened since we took that measurement in 2021. So how do we start to look at this and digest this and decide what are we going to do about this? And you heard from several of us, central office, about this term, MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support. There are a lot of things that fit under this umbrella. PBIS is one of them, intervention is one of them, a lot of UDL curriculum design that Ms. Menard referred to. These are central focuses of ours as a district, but also as a school in each of our schools. So PBIS, you mentioned, or we mentioned, Dr. Slaney and Mr. Keim kind of mentioned as far as our work in PBIS. The middle school is at year one of our PBIS work. We have not had PBIS. That has been present at the two elementary schools. We are in that phase right now, developing our matrix, are in that process, receiving the training for a select staff. In the moment, we've gone down to UConn to kind of receive further training, and we're ready and excited about our year two implementation at the start of next school year. Similarly, this came out in our kind of our culture and climate survey, specifically kind of in our marginalized communities, marginalized populations, are the idea of kind of equity and inclusion. So one, in a reactive scenario to the use of the N-word in many of our bathrooms, boys' bathrooms at the middle school, we started with kind of the development of this RAM safe and supportive lessons, which we gave roughly one every month over the course of this school year. This included, we started with kind of understanding empathy. This served as a good foundation so that we could build empathy, applies to all of the above. That's a starting place so that we can build learning on top of it. That's kind of the foundation of your cake. And then we dove right into the use of the N-word was in November. What is a microaggression training for all students was in January. Understanding anti-Semitism was in February. What is ableism was in March. Combating sexism was in May, most recently. And then next week we'll be having supporting the LGBTQIA plus communities right after that. We have a school-based, this is a teacher-based, teacher-run. There's not an administrator that oversees this or facilitates. This is an organic group, is our equity inclusion group. We also have which is supported and run with Jerry L. and Mrs. Beatty, our Rams No Place for Hate group, which we are going to be endorsed by the ADL by now. We are about to receive it. We just need to have our students sign a piece of paper and we're good to go on that. So we're super excited about that as a school as well. We are, with our school counselors, very deeply immersed, and I think it reaches a special relevance right now with the recent shootings, unfortunate stuff in Uvalde is the Sandy Hook Promise and our involvement in that. And then we have, along with the high school, have a group that's been coming to lunches and meeting in the library, at least in the middle school, is our And Still We Rise, which is a support group provided to all students during lunches to voice proactive approaches to rebellion. But they've got some social workers that come and engage students in conversation as a group. So, on the SEL side, our counselors have been using a Rams block period of time to deliver kind of at a tier 1 level to all students techniques and strategies around hurtful statements, scaling the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 like grounding techniques for all students, training on perspective taking, growth mindset, and then being internet awesome. Those who have a middle schooler, this is where they get into some, we'll call it naughty behavior at the middle school level. They get this device and it becomes this ultimate freedom into the world, if not regulated by their parents and administrators inside the school.
Firewalls.
Yeah,
Lots and lots of firewalls.
Lots of firewalls. And fire, like just actual fire. All right, Tier 1 RAM strategy of the week. We have a fantastic school social worker that we inherited and maybe took from Placentino. Ram Zinden that she's put together that was last year was at Placentino, and then also some de-escalation corners that she provided throughout the building with some different like calming areas. So you might see some couches in the hallway and a little like lamp plugged in, and just looks like, oh, that looks like a relaxing spot to hang out. On a tier 2 level, I am especially excited about this, and I have some preliminary anecdotal data, but I will have harder data here in about 2 weeks. But we have what we call our SO groups. These are our social emotional wellness groups. We have tackled roughly about 100 students have participated in these different groups, but they are more smaller tier 2 groups that meet and are learning explicit strategies around anxiety, regulation, avoidance, grief, and depression. I do believe when we give the culture and climate survey the second time, and we also have kind of this post survey that we're going to have students, their impressions and depressive symptoms and their feelings around anxiety regulation will be improved. But I hope to show that research or that data to you all then. And then at tier 3 level, these are our counseling sessions. These are our groups 1-to-1 focused on like more significant skill building for students with significant social emotional needs. Teaching all students. Starting this similar way, thinking about kind of identifying our problem and what are we going to use to kind of address that. So what is our concern is in our reading and writing, both STAR and MCAS at the beginning of the year identified an increased need to work on nonfiction reading and writing. I would just overall indicate that not just nonfiction, but writing in general has been on the decline. Specifically looking at Standard 2 and 8 are kind of the anchor standards of the ELA standards. Standard 2 is to determine the central ideas or themes of a text and analyze their development, summarize the key supporting details. And then a Standard 8, which I didn't write Standard 8 there, delineate and evaluate the argument and specific claims in a text, including the validity and the reasoning, as well as the relevance of sufficiency of the evidence. Similarly, in math, in both MCAS and STAR, they identified the same challenges together as far as what MCAS identified and what STAR were similar. And that's a lot of words that I will just let you take a peek at there versus me reading all of those. So what are our key actions in order to kind of work on that over the course of the year? One is our implementation of STAR as a benchmark. This has been administered 3 times a year. We have administered it twice. We have our last time that we administer it is next week. That's over both reading and math. This is kind of, the unfortunate thing about MCAS is it is a kind of a one and done. You can have a bad day. You don't get the data, even though you assess them in like April. You don't get the data until like November of the next year. It gets a little ridiculous. So it's hard to write goals or even action or even purchase things to address some challenges and obstacles from there. And then literacy, we partnered with an outside consultant. This is Any Basecamp, who has been working with our curriculum specialists to look at all of our nonfiction across those, so literacy across all content areas has been the focus on them. Specifically, the most professional development has been provided to science and social studies. And the reason is like our lowest areas that we've identified in performance have been nonfiction text. So they're basically social studies prompts, science prompts, like understanding that. And that's a place where we can develop literacy strategies within science classes and within our social studies classes to kind of develop that. Our English department developed a district-determined measure, and what that is a common writing rubric and benchmark writing that they're going to do in each grade 2 times a year, and they're going to spend deep time analyzing and aligning to each other on that. We also just recently finalized a common school-wide writing rubric. We are going to have this as a writing expectation across all subjects next school year. So we found or created, with the help of Any Basecamp, a rubric that can apply to all. And one of the main recommendations of our consultant was that by working on writing and having teachers read lots of writing using a rubric, they learn a lot about reading. The teacher learns a lot about reading. Math, we piloted, and ELA, we piloted Freckle. We are not moving in the direction of Freckle. I just want to indicate that we did pilot it. It was not everything that we thought it was. It was a fantastic pitch to us, and we want it to be everything under the sun, and it just wasn't. That's the honest truth. But we have some supplemental tools that have been highly effective. Within math, Delta Math is one of those tools. It is a tool that's used up at the high school, or has been used continues to be used up at the high school, that we've also found useful, and as a way that we can kind of a familiar tool that the kids travel with when they go on to the high school. We also are looking at, and this is literacy aligned as far as common language and problem type aligned to Massachusetts standards and commonly used vocab and questioning in MCAS. On the intervention, and I'm looking forward to kind of getting to some of this data, but this was our ARPA-funded intervention groups. These were facilitated by Brooke Dory as our interventionist, but we did have a combination of paras and some of our part-time staff who ran the before, during, and after-school intervention groups. So I show this out of vulnerability. And the thing to focus on is actually the blue, red, yellow, and green. The orange and the other, those are like who participated. Reading is a deeper, systemic, spiraled obstacle to work on. It is not something that you apply a bunch of interventions to an ELA class and then you immediately, between administration in the fall to the winter, you have results. I do that because I want to show that this is something that is going to be a long-term obstacle that we need to think about, or a long-term thing that we need to kind of constantly be thinking about, is literacy, and literacy across all subjects. So what this tells us, and as we're talking 2 data points, is it's more or less stagnant in that it is the same. It is growth in that we've basically continued the same way that we have, that they've progressed the way they have, but we haven't caught any or made some gain than what is predicted that we should by that point. Slightly different, though, is math, is that we have shown us an improvement within math from our fall to our winter. Math is kind of something you can apply some quick strategies and some obstacles to have some kind of immediate results to. And we are kind of unpacking a lot of those things of what kind of contributed to that. But we do have the kind of the 3rd data point, which comes here next week. So this I'm very excited about. We have 74 students who participated. This is the ARPA-funded intervention groups. We had 74 students. This is kind of, we categorize this following the recommendation of the school committee and what Dr. Kuska had presented as kind of like your commonly missed students, your students who maybe are kind of like your average student who perform below where they should. This is not a tier 3 student. This is not like a high performing student. This is kind of like oftentimes our missed student that is. But we had 74 students participate in the math and reading intervention. What I'm excited to say is 60% of participating students scored at or above benchmark in existing testing. Why this is exceptional is because they were far below benchmark and testing. So that is, rarely do our students, as they go from MCAS and STAR, do they actually make it from below to above. They just kind of continue in that hole that they continue with. We were able to, in a short period of time, 60% of those who participated made this kind of significant improvement, which I think is a fantastic thing. To be at benchmark is an accomplishment for these students. And to have 60% is an exceptional thing that I'm very proud of Brooke Dory and the structure that she put in place. What I will say, what happened to the other 40%? Those students stayed in the intervention, and we better tailored it based off of the information that we had them. And you can see is that we pivoted the model to better represent what we see in grade level content, so as to address gaps in skills and generalization there. And then overall, one thing we didn't like about Freckle is that the kids wanted to poke their eyes out. These kids in the intervention, overall, the survey data indicated they enjoyed the intervention group that they were in. So they grew and they enjoyed and felt like that they took something valuable from the class.
David, can I just ask, is there an opportunity with those 74 students, at least for the ones that will still be with us at Rams in 7th and 8th grade, is there an opportunity to look at them again next year and see if they held their growth?
Yeah, I think that's my intention, is to use that as a little pool to understand impact. It's harder to do across 700 students, but if I have we've provided let's call the other 680 the control, and this is kind of our experimental group on intervention. That's something that we can provide informative data to you all on to drive, here are the interventions or things we put in place, and this is the impact it has relative to those that didn't have anything at all.
Right. It's great to know it's effective now, but will they hold that growth too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And would you be planning to do those intervention groups next year with that same?
Unfortunately, they're ARPA funded. I will spend those ARPA funds at the end of the school year. I'd like to be kind of creative as much as I can to kind of continue that type of intervention as much as we possibly can.
So the question would be, if we were to get some more ARPA funding for that, would it be something you would run?
Yeah, so this year we had asked you to vote for $100,000, and it was $25,000 per school. So Mr. Jordan will have expended his portion. Ms. Bottomley, I think you will have as well. The elementaries were not able to expend it during the school year, but are looking to put some of that into the summer. So we haven't expended that money, so I'm hesitant to ask right now for more money until we see if we're going to expend that. But I think over the summer, that's something we might want to, when we can see where the two elementaries end up, we could see if we want to do something like that and ask for that funding again.
Yes.
And then into the area of communication, our Rams News continues to be kind of like our primary point of communication, as far as we try to use that as a place that we consistently, our families have access to that. We do have our own school-based Instagram account, but also some more like team-based. One that's grown in significance is our counseling, which posts strategies that we've been using within the building that has been powerful as well. But with that, there are two great people and me in the middle right there at the middle school. Thank you.
Excellent. Questions? Go ahead, Stacey.
At the risk of sounding like I'm putting you up on a pedestal, this was a great presentation in terms of sharing the problem as to why you move towards these goals, and to show the data about the interventions. That's our tax dollars at work. I think that is powerful, and I think this is the type of presentation that we would like to see. I personally would, moving forward from all the schools. I think that was so powerful.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Thank you. On to Ms. Bottomley at the high school.
So I say this each time I go last, which is that I have the easy job because my colleagues across the district have done a phenomenal job of explaining the excellence that's happened throughout the year and highlighting a lot of the themes that are relevant to the high school as well. So I'll touch upon some different areas that are specific to the high school, and then I'll point out where the work has really continued throughout the district and where the high school is in line with the other buildings as well. So we'll start with innovative learning opportunities. The one that I really want to highlight and I'm probably most excited about is the Global Citizen Endorsement Program. That has been a labor of love, both with the vision of a graduate, which was a couple of years in the making, but also from 4 educators who really have a passion around this area. They've presented at school committee earlier in the year. Caitlin Mills, Doug Calais, Erica Calais, and Shauna Frost, who all had the vision to create a global citizen endorsement, felt that it was very connected to the vision of a graduate, but also really was connected to their soul. I mean, this is really the work that's feeding them. They presented the preliminary idea back in June, right before school let out, and then worked on it throughout the first semester, presented to school committee in December-January timeframe, and then was approved through school committee moving forward. So we have 59 students who are signed up for next year to participate in the Global Citizen Program, so GCP as we're referring to it. 21 of those are incoming 9th graders. That to me speaks to the continuous work throughout the district, and this is really touching upon the work at the middle school and at Miller and at Placentino around global citizenship. We're really excited for that. These incoming 9th graders will really be able to start off with the foundational year in 9th grade, and I can't wait to see where they go throughout their 4 years. We've created a new Intro to Global Citizen course that will be offered next year, and we're running 2 sections of it. Students who are coming into the Global Citizen Endorsement Program as 9th graders are really going into that Intro to Global Citizenship course. A number of those students who are enrolled for next year are going to be juniors or seniors who have already, unbeknownst to them, been working towards this. So they were already taking classes and doing the community service pieces. So they may not necessarily need to take the Intro to Global Citizen, but many of them are taking the service learning course that has already existed in the high school for the last few years. Eventually, our incoming 9th graders will make their way to that service learning course, but they'll start with the Intro course next year. So that's exciting. That is seeing the vision of a graduate come off of the pretty poster on the wall and be living in our school. Throughout the year, at faculty meetings and professional development, working with the educators in the building, we work to identify many areas where the vision of a graduate is already alive in the school, and came up with examples in every single department. But the Global Citizen program is really that culmination of all that hard work, and it'll be exciting to see where it goes. Equity and diversity throughout the curriculum, there are examples of that in every single department and every aspect throughout the school. Social justice has been a huge focus over the last year and a half, and all educators in the building and students have been working towards that. So I wanted to give a couple examples of some innovative learning. So you see the Global Citizen, as I spoke about, although they're officially starting the program next year, they have already been jumping into some real world examples of Global Citizen. And so the picture in the middle, 3 of our students, there were actually a number of students who participated. This picture is of 3 of them who were downtown. They were celebrating the earth, but they were talking about the importance of the awareness of our impact on the earth. It was around Earth Day. And so that was just one event that they wanted to bring to everybody's attention. We also have in the top right-hand corner the Future Fit skill domains. So this is part of a larger presentation, and I put the link in there, from business teacher at the high school, Taryn Lang, who is fantastic. She's in her first year here at Holliston. You wouldn't know that, though. You'd think she was here for, forever. She is phenomenal. I cannot say enough about her and what she's doing for the business program. She is a big proponent of universal design thinking. She had the students use design thinking model and design their ideal modern day high school. It wasn't necessarily looking at issues at Holliston High School, but it was looking at issues across the board. Now, what they know is Holliston, right? So a lot of those came up. And so they had to design using UDL principles, which is really looking at who are the clientele, what are the needs. So it's really doing that needs assessment of who you're designing for, and then trying to meet the needs of everyone involved. So their task was to design, using the design thinking model, design your ideal modern high school, suggestions to hyper-focus on 3 initiatives you would like to see in your new space. And the prompt was to think about meeting both the academic and social emotional needs of students. So the students spent quite a bit of time learning the design thinking model, creating their presentations, but along the way also utilizing some of the skills that are in the top right-hand corner to really create and reflect and think about the community that they're serving. And then they did their presentations not too long ago, within the last week or so, actually, I think it was last week. May and June sort of blur together, but they did their presentations in the library. Actually, Miss Menard was there for some of the presentations. Mr. McLeod was able to join as well. And they just did a phenomenal job, an absolute phenomenal job. So the slideshow from Ms. Lang is linked in there as well. And then, of course, the vision of a graduate permeates everything we're doing. In terms of the computer science endorsement program, it's just not listed up there. It's in the supplemental materials that were sent out. We have 36 students who are actively participating in the computer science endorsement program, 4 of whom are graduating on Sunday. And they're graduating with that endorsement. So that is significant, given that this is only our 2nd year in the program, both years of which has been COVID. Right. So, we're really proud of that. The first year, our former technology integration specialist, Tom Reeve, really was creating the program, figuring out some of the obstacles along the way, and then Sarah Kuhn, our tech integration specialist this year, who had been in our school for a long time as an English teacher, she took over and has really elevated the program this year. So students are now creating their own portfolios or websites to document their progress. It's really been amazing to see what she's done just in this short amount of time. So we're really proud that we have 4 students graduating with that endorsement. Mr. McLeod went to the 8th grade this year and did a presentation on computer science endorsement. So we expect over the next couple of years that this is going to grow significantly. We're excited to have 36 members right now. And the other, as we're talking about, a school-wide focus on alternative assessments and real-world authentic assessments, I just want to highlight we have one of our science teachers, Dan Marsh, who teaches environmental science, among many other things, and he runs the environmental club as well. He partnered with a group this year to become a site to have free trees, so little baby trees, that went out to 100 different students at the high school. And so with the understanding that the students would then take the tree, plant it, and give back to the environment. My own children actually did it as well. They're super excited. They've named their trees, and so they're on their way. I'm not sure my daughter's is going to make it, but my son's is moving on. So we might have to replant. But it was really amazing, and what, he had emailed me after the fact, after he was able to get all the trees in the hands of the students. And he said he was just blown away with how excited the students were to have something that they were actually, they were making a difference in a small way in the environment. And it was really nice, and it was authentic, and it was meaningful to the students. So it's not necessarily what we think of as assessments, but it was really important to the students. And they had to learn a lot about what to do, what type of tree was it, how were they going to take care of it, how were they, best to transfer, and all of that. So I just wanted to highlight that because it's just kind of a cool story from this year. All right, so equitable, safe, and supportive schools. So this was a lot of the work this year, a lot of significant work this year. I will not jump into Metro West Adolescent Health Survey and mood checks. I think Mr. Jordan did a really nice job going through some of the survey data. We have just received that data. So with the Metro West Adolescent Health Survey in particular, they release sort of small pieces of the survey. So we don't get all of the data at once. So we have some preliminary data. That will be a lot of the work over the coming weeks and over the summer to analyze that and to analyze mood check as well. The equity and anti-bias work was certainly a focus this year. We did a lot of work, both reactively and proactively. We would love to be able to say, moving forward, that all the work is proactive, but the reality is there will be times where it's reactive as well. We had a school-wide lesson on hate speech and microaggressions. The feedback from students was very positive. We did a survey after. They felt that it was really worthwhile to take time out of class to do that. They also felt it was really helpful to have their teachers actually doing the lesson with them because they have established relationships with their teachers. And when they're discussing some of these difficult topics, to have it be in an environment where they already feel like there are established relationships as opposed to having it be kind of in a large group, they really felt that that was helpful as well. Khalees Warnham came into the district and all of the schools to do a lot of work with the faculty. I think what we're hearing from the faculty moving forward is that the work was really important. It was impactful. It was significant. They still want more work around interrupting microaggressions and knowing what to say in the moment, knowing how to handle that in a way that is more educational than anything else. So that's work that will never be done, but that's work moving forward. I think some of the conversations in the district, I know certainly at the high school and with Jeriel and I think throughout the district as well, has been around onboarding new faculty in the future. So any faculty who come on board next year won't have participated with Khalees Warnham this year or in some of the other work that we've done. So how do we make sure that that's sustainable, and when new faculty are coming on board, we're able to onboard them in a way that that they understand sort of the fabric of our district, what we stand for, but also so that they have some of these trainings available to them as well. So that's some of the work that we've been talking about. Yep.
Yeah, and let me just, that's why we're all so excited about that. Our paraprofessionals will be getting 12 hours as well, because we did invite them, but it was voluntary this year. It was kind of late for them to participate, but the themes are going to be embedded so that it's not just for our teachers, but our paraprofessional staff. And I think we need to start thinking about how some of our other support roles can get some of these trainings as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Jump in whenever. We also, I partnered with Jeriel. Some of the feedback from students was that they really wanted to have a guest speaker come and address the school. We ended up bringing in Teen Truth, and the focus, Caleb Campbell, who's a former NFL player, who's a mental health advocate, is part of Teen Truth. A lot of the themes this year really centered around those connections and the support. So we've done a lot of work on equity, we've done a lot of work on anti-bias, we've done a lot of work around hate speech. And the foundational pieces underneath all of that are around feeling included and feeling safe and supported. We're also seeing pretty significant increases in needs around mental health. And so bringing in Teen Truth and bringing in a speaker who could really focus on the mental health aspect, but also the piece around you're not alone. The connection is so important. And so one of the things he talked about was that on the outside, it seemed like he had everything going for him. He was a star athlete, but on the inside, he was struggling very significantly. It was very powerful for our student body. One of the things he did right at the end of the presentation was he asked 3 questions of the students. And one of the questions he asked was for everyone to stand up if they ever felt anxiety, depression, stress. I would say, and this is my rough estimate, but somewhere between 75 to 85% of the individuals, and I say individuals, students and adults that were in the auditorium, stood up. And it was powerful, and it was eye-opening as you looked around and realized that you weren't alone, that so many people had these feelings. It was also a little scary because so many people were identifying concerns around anxiety and depression, and at various levels. But it was something that the students really spoke about afterwards that really stayed with them, that moment where they had to physically stand up and look around. After that, the entire school, minus 50 students, went back into their classrooms for a half-an-hour follow-up activity on Teen Truth. We had 50 students who participated in a leadership summit in the library. They spent 2 hours with Caleb, and they delved further into leadership skills. They also identified areas of concern that they see in their school, and more importantly, what the solutions were to those problems. So they were able to talk a lot about what it means to be a leader, and then develop some ideas for how to improve and move forward. From that, they have been meeting, or a subset, depending on availability, has been meeting each week with one of our counselors who participated in the summit and really has been working with students to keep the conversations going and to talk about different solutions to improvements. As we move forward, we're going to be meeting with them again in about a week or so. Jeriel is actually confirming the date as we all sort of try to piece things together before the end of the school year to talk about action steps moving forward. And they identified issues and solutions, everything from something that's probably able to fix the next day to some pretty significant changes moving forward. So there's a lot of work to be done around that, but the students had a pretty powerful voice in that. And then Mr. Jordan talked about And Still We Rise. There were 2 counselors who came each week to the high school and the middle school. They started off alternating schools, and then we were fortunate that they actually split up, and so they were able to be at both schools every Tuesday. One of the people that were coming each week is actually going to be doing an internship at the high school next year. So that's exciting because she was able to meet a lot of students and start that work, but she'll be working with our clinicians next year on her practicum, actually, and so she'll be here next year, which I think is a nice continuation. All right, so teaching all students, a lot of this was already covered in terms of some of the STAR assessments and other work with the ADL. The quote that I put up there in teal, I guess would be the color. I just want to read that because I think that speaks to this year. So the quote is, "Remember, everyone in the classroom has a story that leads to misbehavior or defiance. 9 times out of 10, the story behind the misbehavior won't make you angry. It will break your heart." And I say that in the context of teaching all students because this was a difficult year. For me personally, I think this year felt harder than last year in a lot of ways. And when I have those conversations with colleagues throughout the school, it feels like everybody is kind of in the same boat. But this year in a lot of ways felt harder. I think we were seeing some behaviors at the school that we hadn't really seen before, or we hadn't seen in that volume before. Students needed a lot of support to acclimate to the building once again. They needed a lot of support to acclimate to just being in the school all day, the bell schedule. This is, although the start and end times changed last year, we were on a modified schedule because of COVID. So this really was the first year that students were in from 8:10 to 2:43. And so, there were some growing pains there as well. So I think that the support that students needed, the social emotional support that students needed was amplified throughout the year. In advisory, we tried to really connect some of the vision of a graduate and the life skill development into our themes for the year, and really focused to bring the vision of a graduate alive to students. And then the quote that's at the bottom is an Oprah quote: "Follow your passion, it will lead you to your purpose." It's actually the quote we were using for graduation on the programs this year. But really looking at how do we find that individual interest for all students and be able to support that as they grow and develop. And then I just had an example in the top right-hand corner, the Culture Club taking a field trip to Danforth Museum, partly because it was a great experience for them, and partly because I'm so excited that we had field trips again. That was really, really nice for everyone involved. And then the last one here, communication. In the top right, that's actually a screenshot of our website. So I'm thrilled that we have the new website. It is still very much being under construction, at least for the high school. It continues to be built out. So my hope in the future, we're continuing to work on that. Mr. Boudet mentioned that a few colleagues had gone to a training this year, including our tech integration specialist at the high school. So we're further developing the capacity of educators in the building to be able to post to the website, to develop the pages. And I couldn't help but grab the screenshot because that was when the students were able to go to the field day at Gillette after they were politely asked to move the prom, which worked out really well for us because it ended up being a fantastic prom. Gillette did pay for the prom, so that was an added bonus, and they did a field day for the students. So the senior class were able to go to Gillette for the day. They had, bouncy house castles, and they were fed a ton of food, and they had music going, and it was just kids being kids. It was just a really fun, nice event, and the students loved it. So I'm just throwing that in, but that's our website. In the bottom left, that's actually a picture from Caitlin Mills' service learning class. So Ms. Menard mentioned earlier, and actually I think Stacy mentioned as well, the service learning class and the event that they had the other night. And so I put that in with communication because that really is not just showcasing the work of the student, but it's also a community connection, and the work that the students are doing in that class is all community-based. It's community service and looking at how they can help support their community. And then in the top left-hand corner is the Counselor Collective, which we've had really positive feedback to. The clinicians this year, so 2 adjustment counselors and social worker, they've put out 2 of these so far. Their goal is to increase. They wanted to see what the feedback would be, and it's been overwhelmingly positive, so I think they're going to continue working on this. What's nice about the Counselor Collective, so it's available on our website, but I'm also email blasting it out. What's nice is it's really easy to read. It's a quick read in a lot of ways. There's some humor infused into it. There's some helpful tips and tricks for parents and guardians. And as I said, there's been really positive feedback. And then over on the right-hand side, the screenshot says Open House Holliston High School, and there's a link underneath it. That's actually a link to the recording. So our open house was virtual this year. Regardless of what we do in the future, whether it's in-person events or virtual events, our goal is to record those and make those available. Last night we had the senior scholarship night. HCAT, who, by the way, has been an incredible partner, at least for the high school, and I think for all the schools over the last couple of years with COVID, in that all of the access they've been able to bring to families who haven't been able to be in person. So they were able to live stream the event last night, which is really nice because there were families who probably otherwise would not have been able to view the scholarship night. And so we got some feedback last night from families who weren't physically in attendance but watched it. We had some feedback from somebody actually in another state as well. So, just that access level. And to have those recordings available for anyone who wants to go back and have any of that information. So that is it for me.
Nicole, some of us have been meaning to send you an email to tell you that the Counselor Collective is awesome, and some of us may have not had a chance, but it has been... I did. I did not, but I have been meaning to. It really is, it is a cool newsletter. That
I appreciate you pushing out more of that, because I feel like, the kids that are right now in the high school, like some of them, the younger kids in particular, I mean, after 2 years of being throughout the pandemic, remote, all they've been through, I just feel like they're not communicating with us as much as I feel like they should be. And I know that we want to move them towards greater independence, and that is the goal, absolutely. But more is better.
Yeah, and
Pushing out more is better for us right now, I think.
Sure, and I hear that feedback. I think one of the things that's been so challenging this year is that every time we think we're planned out for an event, it's changed.
It's pivots.
So it's sort of,
Pivot.
figuring out, how far ahead. So for example, I had sent an email blast out at the beginning of April that listed all of the senior events over the next 2 months. Probably half of those, if not more, changed significantly since I hit send the beginning of April, right? And so, that I think has been really hard this year. I don't think any of us, or at least I did not anticipate the giant surge in January, which coincided right with, assessments. And we didn't anticipate getting bumped by Garth Brooks for the prom. You know what I mean? So there's so many of those challenges. So I think that it's, the feedback over the years from the community has been that the preference around communication has been around like event-specific communication, as opposed to sort of dumping everything all together. I think that the pandemic has shifted that a little bit over the last 2 years, and just trying to figure out what is happening, what are we doing. For the students, I think also sort of reacclimating to that level of independence too. So the feedback, I will definitely share the feedback though with the counselors around the counselor collective, because I think it's been great. And they're phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
But clearly, you can see all the common threads going throughout the work that we're doing, and really connected into the work with the strategic plan going into next year. So to your point, Stacy, earlier, I think some of the things we're hearing is we're seeing evidence tonight of all the innovative PBL, the wonderful things that this district had moved towards a number of years ago is happening, and it's quite evident in all the buildings. However, there is a need now to marry some of that data and do a little bit tighter on our vertical alignment. So we're not moving away from innovation and project-based learning, but we are going to be looking, like Mr. Jordan talked about tonight, a little more closely at the data to support and show how that innovation is moving the district forward as well.
I think we feel beat up. We've pivoted so many, that couch has moved so many times that I think people really are feeling beat up. And so, let's look at the glass half full on this one. We are doing, our kids are learning. It has been a hell of a year. No doubt about it.
And our teachers and our administrators are doing a phenomenal job.
Exactly. So we need to acknowledge that.
And
all of our staff are.
I think, we would be remiss if we didn't mention the incredible nursing staff for the district. I mean, there's no way that I would have survived the last 2 years without, or 3 years really, without our nursing staff. They are phenomenal. They are communicating all day, every day. And they're just, I cannot say enough about them throughout the district. We are so incredibly fortunate that we have the caliber of nurses that we have. It's just, I could go on all, I won't, but I could go on all night about how phenomenal the nursing staff is. And really, they have been instrumental in our success over the last couple of years.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Well done. That was a lot to take in. I'm gonna have questions later.
And I don't know if the links, we put the PDF version in yours, so I don't know if the links will open, but I'll make sure I share this.
They do, I just didn't get to all the links before our meeting tonight, since I think I got it yesterday.
Compared to last year, this year's presentation was pretty compact and really informative. There's a lot of work on it.
Yeah.
That's really, my kids have gone along, so
Okay. I'm glad to see that David's personal local global made it through into our strategic plan. It doesn't escape me that that was something you've been concentrating on for a while now, so thank you for that. All right.
Possible I can just
Share.
I just wanted to take a second to acknowledge the passing of Gloria Hant, who was a long time cafeteria monitor at the middle school, for probably about 30 years.
Yeah.
She died at 90 years old. She has had many of the children that have gone through both the middle school, many of their parents, and in some cases even grandparents. And so she is one of the legends and staples of this community, affectionately just known as Gloria, and beloved by all who ever knew her. So I just wanted to take some time here publicly with the community to just acknowledge that loss.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gloria was a friend of all. I mean,
Oh,
she would
she was-
come up, you know, when Kathy Caswell, especially because she was very familiar with the Caswell family in town. And she would come up and see Kathy, who was Brad's assistant at that time, and stop off and see me. And she would, you know, once a week, once every other week, and just check in, make sure we were doing okay. You know, are you guys okay? And so, no, she was an absolute dear. And she left us in 2018 as an employee, but was never far from our thoughts. So she will be missed on this planet. There's no
Yeah.
question.
She was glorious.
She was so sweet. My daughter loved her.
Yeah.
My boys didn't get a chance. She had already left by that time at Rams, but yeah, he did. Thank you for saying that. She was great. Our condolences to her family, but 90, I mean, that's incredible.
And she worked till like.
She worked till she was 87, I mean, yeah. And not the middle schoolers, I'll tell you, it was the parents that were driving in. That's who she was at.
Kept them in line.
She sure did.
Kept them in line.
Yeah.
And then and yet she was very sweet about it.
She was.
Yeah,
I
right? She was
adored
very-
her.
kindness.
I adored
Yeah,
her.
she was fine.
I haven't learned that skill.
We know, Keith. We know.
I'm sorry, my kids are having a crisis at home.
Okay, go ahead, Amanda. All right. We don't have any policy for tonight.
But we're doing the 13th.
The next meeting is
Oh, yeah.
June 13th.
I'll get to those in a sec, but.
Did you forward the times to Lisa?
Yeah, from 2 to 4. I did respond to Lisa.
2 to 4, okay. Do you have other updates that you're offering tonight? You just did the whole, I feel like we're done with that central, no, wait, you didn't get to go. Oh, my goodness, I'm riveted, hold
A
on.
couple of quick things. The DPW Highway Department has been banging out as much as they can here in advance of tomorrow's rain.
Oh, good.
To get us ready. We're looking pretty good, I'll say that. You know, working towards.
There's a little trim that I noticed up front that. Just kidding.
Well, we're worried about the
Everything's good.
fields right now.
Don't worry about that. It's gonna be the field.
Yeah.
What?
My garbage went out.
What?
My garbage went out.
Keith? Never mind, we'll talk about that
Yep.
offline. Oh, I can't believe you did that.
Well, you left it there too, so.
I didn't put it in your trash.
Well, I did, but it's okay. Geez, that threw me all off now. We are starting up the program with composting at the Adams School. A high school student is leading that effort, and work with Mr. Jordan to find an appropriate place, so that's going to be starting up before the end of the school year, it's looking like, so.
And they're already doing it. Yeah, and they're already doing it at the high school, right?
Yes, yes.
That is so awesome.
And we have, this is the week of bids, so we have the transportation bid, which came in Monday. I'm working with that to disaggregate some pieces of it, and the contracted cleaning bid will be tomorrow. So we'll have some updates for next year's budget then on how close we came. So I'm not gonna say I'm pessimistic, but obviously since even we did the budget and then it's gone out to bid, it's not like the economy has gotten any better between inflation and things of that nature. So it's
Fuel prices.
well, the fuel prices won't affect us because we pay for the fuel, so that's in our budget formally as opposed to, but
Yeah,
labor
I know.
costs, I mean, the
Labor,
inflation
yeah.
is the labor cost, which again, we've got to work some things out, so.
And how long are those contracts? Are those?
The transportation contract's a 3-year contract with 2 follow-on years, that's at the district's option. The cleaning contract's a 3-year contract.
And Mr. Boudet did mention earlier that we had one vendor we met with today.
for the
on
equity
About the
audit.
equity audit, yep.
We have a second one next week. I
Next
think I
week,
haven't shared it with you yet.
Yep.
And then we're going to vet a couple more as well, and then make a decision as a central leadership team about who to bring in to do that work. So that's exciting.
And it was a good meeting today. I mean, it was optimistic that, you know, we're going to get a good mix of people to get an idea on, and Susan and I were on the same page on virtually everything we were looking at. So I think it was good. It was a good meeting.
Yeah, and then, the graduation, we did move to outside.
Right.
Just, we feel like, well, personally, and as a district, we feel like, the numbers of people that will be here on Sunday, what, 1,500 maybe, or?
Potentially, yep.
Yeah.
In that space, even though it's open, we felt like this is a great day, the weather's going to be great, so let's seize the
Unlike last
opportunity.
year.
Right,
Yeah, it
last
was
year, even though
hot.
we moved it to 10, it
It
was
was
still very
so
hot.
hot.
So, we're looking at a high of 77, but that's later in the day, so I'm
know.
thinking maybe 70, and it looks
that would
clear,
be
so
And
that's.
all the school committee is invited to attend graduation.
I have to figure out where I'm putting you. I haven't figured that out
That's what I
yet.
was going to ask
I
you,
have-
where do
yeah.
we need to go?
I'm not sure. I'll work
What
that
time do we
with-
need to report?
So the students have to
10.
be here at 9:30, parking obviously is the challenge, so
Before 10.
it starts at 10, but, I'd suggest getting here at
We won't
9:30.
I know, we won't find a place to park if we wait till then.
Exactly.
So like 9?
No,
9?
I'm not going to be here at 9. I got 9:59.
Okay.
Just
you
the
never
parking,
know.
that's an issue, because we'll have designated
What
seats.
if we don't have to park? In that case, what time can we come?
Quarter 10, 10 up?
Yeah,
10.
again, it's just
Jumped
because
off.
we're not doing a processional for the non-students. So we have to I just have to figure out where we're going to put you, and
We
I'll
can
work with Nicole
carpool.
on that one, so.
It'll be like a party wagon.
We'll just send a bus for you.
I actually have a practice in the morning.
Oh,
Where?
a practice?
Doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
Well, if it's on school
Yeah.
grounds, it does.
No.
Well, you would know, right?
No,
You
yeah.
you have eyes everywhere if it was on school grounds. You would be telling me.
Well, I don't know everything until sometimes it happens. Eyes is not necessarily forethought. Eyes is
Right.
right now, so, no, it's not at the high school, is it?
No.
Okay.
Can you
It's
just
a
clarify though,
private
there are 7 tickets per student, correct?
Yes,
This
ma'am.
isn't-
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
I
not a
think there was,
free-for-all.
well, I think there was some misunderstanding when the change happened that it was going from inside to outside. I think we
Right,
didn't
we-
reiterate that
Oh.
it
It's
is
the same.
still only 7 tickets.
Right, because we also rent chairs, and we
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
only a designated number of chairs that we can set up.
I mean, people can stand outside the fence and things of that nature,
Right.
I guess. It's part of it's about crowd control as well, and how much we can manage with the resources we have, so, but yeah.
Do we still rent chairs? I thought we bought so many during COVID. that-
We didn't buy
We didn't
for,
buy them. Okay.
Where would we
1,700,
store? Where would
1,700.
we store that many
Right.
chairs? We can't.
We'd have to close 2 classrooms.
Right, that's what I figured, okay. So I wanted to ask you about the intersection up here. We went to the select board meeting, they talked about potentially putting stops, like, when do you think that's gonna happen?
I do not know.
Okay.
I know that they had an initial thing that I read the report and I found it very interesting, that it's possibly illegal that we have flashing lights at the high school level. It's apparently you're not allowed to do that because they figure high schoolers are old enough to figure out how to cross the street themselves. You know how we have the beacons, that school zones?
crazy.
Yeah, it was in the report that that's not approved to do that, so.
On Highland, but.
No, no,
Anywhere.
for the high school, we have.
That doesn't make any sense.
Again, I don't know why, but that's
We have a
traffic.
traffic advisory committee
Yeah.
meeting in the next 2 weeks. I'll find out more,
Okay.
because I think.
Well, I'm
we'll
not
come
worried
back
about
to
it.
that.
Whistle past the graveyard here. It's, we're not going to take them, I don't
Take
think we're
them
going to
down.
I don't think we're taking them down,
Yeah.
but we're certainly,
No, I meant, I'll just be able to say,
yeah.
like, here's the next step, because
Oh, okay,
we'll get
okay.
an update from Tina.
Traffic
so I'll
advisor,
let you
yeah.
know.
yeah, I mean, the idea of possibly putting a sidewalk around to connect to the sidewalk there would
Yeah.
obviously keep the campus a little more secure, as much as an open campus can be.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we can't stop people from walking from Prentice Street
Right.
or Highland Street that want to go to Hollow Street from walking through campus, because that's where everything leads to.
Mm-hmm. Right,
A sidewalk around would create that opportunity, so.
right.
Yeah, actually, something, now that you mentioned the open campus, so we do have our final safety meeting for the year with we have the chief of police, the fire chief, and our SROs, a number of administrators attend. And quite honestly, I think we really need to revisit some of the practices. The open campus has its pros, but there are a lot of cons that I'm not really sure in the event of an incident like happened in Uvalde, how we would close down this campus, and the doors are open all day. So I'm not telling you that we're making any changes, but at the same token, it will come up next week at the safety committee, because I really don't know, with students coming and going, during these, it concerns me as someone that's been really working on safety initiatives in previous districts, and while I know why it happens here, and I love these creative ideas, the more these things happen, it just makes me very anxious about some of the practices that have been longstanding, but may need to be revisited.
I mean, one thing we had talked about, you don't know this because you weren't here then, but when we had the bank robbery, for those of you who remember that,
Yep.
we had a one heck of a problem of keeping people off campus. Parents were coming to get their kids and stuff like that, and everybody was safer inside. And we had absolute gridlock, on Woodland Street. And we had talked about, at that time, about possibly, I think the number was 9, of gating every possible entrance, so that in the case of that situation, we could literally shut down the campus, at least from outside vehicles.
Yeah, we had
Just to be able to, again, for us to be able to process and figure out what we have to do next. It's tough to do that when you've got 300-400 cars wrapping all around your campus, Woodland Street backed up, and I could see my buses down there with no way to get, onto campus, so.
Yeah, and with the accident the other day, that was something that we had parents calling very angry that they had doctor's appointments and couldn't pick up their kids. Well, we had someone that, actually, I don't even have an update on how that person ended up, but it was very concerning, so we be able to shut things down,
Sure.
it would be nice to have some ability. I'm
But
sorry, I think
Then
Lisa.
Even if we had gates, don't you think the parents would still be headed downtown creating gridlock?
We're going to have.
Well, yeah, but you keep them moving, though. The thing is that people are all trying to come
the
here.
police will help.
You
Yeah,
can't,
they'll
you
just say,
know what I'm
"Keep
saying?
going."
If you were on Woodland Street, they're just going to move you. Keep going, don't, come back in an hour type of thing. It's, it would have at least facilitated us doing that.
One of the things that we'll probably talk about soon, I've asked Mr. Boudet, something that I've asked him to look into before, we just haven't had funding, but we may use some of our one-time funds that we heard about recently, that we have through next year to purchase the fob system to be able to, so that, we still have people propping doors, they shouldn't be, but it's going to happen if they, make it easier for people. So looking to get fob access that teachers would be able to swipe and get in the, if they're on recess in different places. So I'm looking to try to implement that hopefully before the new school year as well.
Is there a way to do a door that after a few, maybe 30 seconds, 90 seconds, 2 minutes, an alarm goes off, right? Some level of an alarm, and then you won't have the propping of doors. Is that part of any of the safety precautions?
To do that, if you were doing that on
It's
every door,
yeah.
that would be a rather expensive system. I mean, that's a feature that we did speak about with the company that we use for our security cameras, who also does door access, as an add-on to the fob system, just so that if somebody used the fob and then propped it open, an alarm, something would go off. To do it on every door, I think the cost would be prohibitive.
I
And
think-
it's a project for a new building, I think, or, you know what I'm saying, where
Yeah.
you do get state support for as
But
opposed to.
thinking about that, see something, say something, that's something, we became very vigilant in my last district about this, and I'm going to be presenting with the police at the beginning of the year, safety throughout the district, and we need to be looking at checking people if they don't have IDs going into the new school year, talk to people when they're, doing things like this. The more we monitor it and have our police helping with the perimeter for a little bit, it takes a little traction to get used to the adjustment, but usually it takes off once we keep reminding people. They do a lot better with that.
Lisa, go ahead.
Could we schedule an executive session sometime in the next few weeks to kind of just talk through, get an update on some security stuff? Because I know in the past I've been told that there are certain security issues that we don't want to talk about publicly for obvious reasons. You don't want to.
Deployment of security devices is a executive sessionable, purpose.
Could we do that maybe sometime in the next few weeks or whenever it can
Can we
reasonably
do it around the next, for
be
the
done?
June 16th meeting? Is that what
We have one already scheduled for the 16th.
We can add it
Because
to the agenda.
I'll be meeting with we're having our safety
Another
meeting next
separate one.
week, so I could.
Yeah.
I could.
I
We
just
could do it separately. We could do it separately.
I've heard from a couple of parents ask me questions that I don't know the answer to, and they aren't necessarily things that I think that we would want to advertise if we were doing them.
No.
Well, that's
Yeah.
part of the thing. We can't publicize all that we're doing because then we might be giving the information to someone we don't want to give it to. Right?
Right.
So I just wanted to be able to sort of ask some questions and talk through some things in a
Yeah.
executive session.
Which also
Sure.
actually, yeah, that pretty much is what I was talking about, so thank you, yeah. And not about the meeting, but the fact that
We don't
I
want to
have-
advertise it.
Yes, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
even if
Yeah.
we had, if you told the whole world, they would, so,
And it just, the fob systems aren't foolproof either, but
No,
I mean, it's
nothing-
definitely
nothing
something that's
is. Nothing
helpful.
is. I just, the more we
As
can.
someone who has a fob system where I work, that, the locks get loose, if you have codes versus fobs are less, have less resistance or whatever. They're easier to use than putting in a code. It breaks the door faster.
People letting people in behind them too, the parents when they get buzzed
does.
into the,
We
or
have
anyone,
notes
not
that
just
say,
parents, but
don't be nice, don't let
Right.
people in. I know.
we've been struggling with that
Yep.
since the bank robbery.
But even, well, I won't point out some of the other areas that I've talked with Mr. Boudet about that we can update. There's things that are not, if you get in one door, you get in the rest of the places and so on.
Maybe it might be a good idea to put it in the newsletter that when you come in, please do not let people behind you enter the door. Send it in, send it out maybe a few times until it gets in there. Like when they read it multiple times, it
And
gets
that's
in
why
there.
we've set aside the first PD day before school starts to really kind of cement some of these conversations with staff.
It's with
I'll be the
all
bad
staff.
guy. I'll be the bad guy.
All staff and
All
parents in
staff,
the
it's
newsletter because that's
paras.
Yeah, and then we'll follow up with-
Maintenance, it's everybody, secretaries, everybody.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Boudet?
And then just one other quick thing, there'll be a different mechanism for us to do for that. We're going to be requesting information about bus passes this year. We're moving away from paper. And we're moving away from paper. You're not listening?
I am listening, I'm
Okay.
just aghast.
But we're moving away from paper. Every family will receive an email with information that's going to look very similar to the bus pass request form. You will use you'll be going through Power School, we'll be using Bright Arrow, we'll be collecting the information through a Google form, populate it that way. We're trying to create both an efficiency, a mechanism for us to remind people specifically, like I don't need to remind Catherine if she's already sent in information, that type of thing. I need to remind Stacy because she's obviously negligent in that.
And then the routes will be pass protected, right? Like they are in some other, because we have is just open. I don't think we should have our routes just,
Our routes are not published,
I think we've had them published.
not this year,
Oh, not this year.
not this year.
Not this year? Okay,
Nope.
yeah, that's good.
Nope.
Could we have them pass protected then, so
I-
that we could get them through Power School?
Don't think so.
Oh, okay,
I don't think so. That's not going to transition that way. We haven't set up Power School to do that.
okay.
You'll have your bus pass, which is
Yeah,
how
yeah, no,
when your bus
yeah,
gets there.
that's-
Publishing the
that's
routes
fine.
also encourages people.
That's what I
to-
mean.
Publishing the
there's been
routes
issues with that
encourages
before.
people to hop on the bus, because what I need a pass for if I know the bus is going to be
Yeah,
there.
I have less of a concern about that.
The guy who takes the money in does, but.
Okay.
So that's the last thing.
To me, it's about protecting
Oh,
kids,
so you
that's
won't
all.
be sending out the request for bus
That'll be co-
information?
That'll be going via email.
Great,
You'll
because
click
people
on, you'll
tend
click
to-
on a link in your email. And this way, we also know it's less likely of people saying, I was away for the summer.
Yeah.
Right.
I never got it,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we sent it out, if you got my reminder email, you probably got the one before it, you just didn't do anything about it. So it's going to be better.
Good.
I appreciate 2 or 3 reminders myself.
Yeah, I have a question about that. Like, we pay the lunch money online,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Is it something that can be just clubbed with that
The-
system?
The challenge with that is linking, you have 3 children, so linking which one of your 3 children you are paying for with regards to the bus pass. We don't have a mechanism to get us from the bus pass application to that yet. Do I think it can happen and probably will happen at some point? Yes. It's not happening on this first iteration. So it's
Because
just,
yeah,
no, I know what you're saying. I mean, we take school tuition online, we're doing things with athletics. The difficulty is that we're dealing with 900 people, not,
All of them.
exactly, it's 900 bus passes we sell a year. So it's a lot of volume and is rife with, us not getting information at times, mistakes being made because of that. We really like for that piece of having hard checks in our hand to be able to backtrack who did pay and who didn't pay. So right now, we're taking baby steps here, even though it's a big step, but it's a big baby step, say, before we go into going to that, so.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Boudet?
I don't know if that would be it for
This is more
me.
than brief.
Sorry, I never said I was going to be brief.
Boudet's brief. Okay.
Are we going to revisit school choice again in June? but probably next meeting?
We may.
We may.
We
Okay.
may.
But
I haven't looked at the acceptances yet from Donna, so if I see something that's either created something, et cetera, we can revisit that, yes.
Okay.
I'll look at that.
Okay. All right, let's go to reports from subcommittees. Communications will have a newsletter next
I
time.
need to touch base with everyone and see if they want to put out a newsletter again.
Okay.
Before the end of the week.
Okay. Policy, we have a meeting June 13th from 2 to 4. Budget, we're meeting on Friday, tomorrow. It's tomorrow. 8:45.
8:30.
What?
Posting.
We're just, we're just reviewing our minutes.
Oh, yeah, no.
Oh.
It's just, we're just approving minutes. Sorry. Sorry.
Susan, I
We're
look
just
at each other
approving
like, which
minutes.
one, who kills who didn't tell the other one?
A moment there. Yes. So we're just approving minutes.
8:45 is going to take
10 minutes, maybe, right? Yeah, 10 minutes. 5 minutes. She's saying 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
But
I don't know.
8:45.
I don't know. We're chatty Cathy's,
You're
so it
fat,
could happen.
fat, something.
All right. Superintendent evaluation is no. We have nothing more to discuss with superintendent evaluation.
We're done.
I know. We should take it
Take
off
it
here.
off.
All right, I'll take it off for next meeting. Take off. And then elementary complex logistics related to school start times, which Mr. Boudet is now lovingly calling SGO.
It's important to have an acronym.
I know.
You can just say it, just rolls
He even
off the
put a
tongue.
sign on his door that says it's like the headquarters of SGO, which is Study Group for Elementary Operations.
Bingo.
I know, right? It's pretty good.
Rolls right off the tongue.
That's what he thinks. You should call it, but
Do we have to decide that now?
No.
Can we just have- 'cause it seems like maybe that's.
you guys can discuss it at your first, at your first meeting, whatever that is. Huh?
Sounds like a
Sounds
what?
like a commando team, SGOs.
SGO, I know.
Sounds military.
Anyway,
Exactly, right?
anyway. Do you have a meeting scheduled?
We don't have a meeting scheduled, no, but I think the first thing on the agenda will be to change the name of the committee.
Oh, he was so happy with it.
Done.
That was
Good strategy,
short-lived.
good strategy.
That was short-lived.
It just needs to be discussed by the committee.
Yes, they're just gonna discuss it.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is, it's gonna be discussed.
All right, so you don't have a meeting?
We do
scheduled
not,
yet.
no.
Okay. All right, old business, new business, item of information. Yeah, I don't even think I had any items of information even. Okay, so our next meeting is June 16th at 7 PM, same bat time, same bat channel. We will, what do we have on the agenda for that? Oh, we have some visitors. So like PTO, well, they've been invited. I'm not sure whether they'll all come or not, but HMAPA, PTO, HABA, who am I missing?
Sure.
Whatever, they were asked, the parent groups were asked if they wanted to come and present something. We used to do this before COVID, and so we just asked if they wanted to come. The only one I know that's coming right now is HMAPA, so far.
There's still time.
I can't remember.
I don't know who I'll ask, because I gave her she had a list, and I just said, oh, did you invite these people too?
Yeah, I just
So,
want to make sure we include.
yep,
And we do have down a presentation related to, I forget what we call it, a curriculum.
Correct.
But, we've already given a lot of information. I'm hoping that we can introduce our 3 curriculum coordinators and give a
Yep.
brief
Oh,
sort
right.
of wrap up of more about what the journey is going to look like going forward.
Right.
and we'll have retiree
Yes.
list, and we're invited to that. Did everybody get their invitations for that?
Yes, so I had Lisa Ronian working on a retiree breakfast that we're doing on June 14th at 9 AM, I believe it is. But that's not for public, because we just don't have the room for it. But I think all of you should have received an invitation for that if you can make it.
9, yes.
And we're excited to do something a little nice to say
Yeah,
goodbye to the
that was
people that
nice.
have been here for a long time.
So will we have the STAR assessment data then by the
When will we
June
get that?
16th meeting?
16.
No, we will not have all of that still.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
So maybe for the July meeting, we could.
Yes, yes, we could do that, definitely.
Talk about-
July meeting.
And we don't have a July meeting.
Right, never mind, never mind.
We're scheduling trainings in July.
I adore you all, but like, we
Yeah.
have met enough in the past.
Come on, I was scheduling trainings for July.
Like, no July.
No?
Going away. Bye-bye.
Nobody wants to do a training in July?
No.
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
We're going to be at the conference in
Huh?
July. And I don't know if you're joining us. You never told us.
You'll read an email on it?
Proposed to you yet.
Oh, getting the dagger eyes over here. Okay,
It's bad enough that I have to be here for the day before school starts.
okay, that's fine.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
We're just chatting.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Dr. Savard. Seconded by Stacy. All in favor? Thank you. All right. Happy graduation, everybody. Please stay safe and have a great time. And everybody enjoy your parties and have a good night. The time is 9:21. Good night, everybody.
Are they going to be the same?